You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
One of the things I've noticed over my last 24 years working in marketing and also running my own businesses over the last 10 to 12 years is that those companies that know their niche really, really well are the ones that have the fastest growth and are the most successful. And that's not by any mistake at all. So today's episode, I'm dedicating to answering the question, what actually is a niche and what it isn't, because it's one of the most highly misunderstood areas of marketing strategy that I see, and so many people really struggle with this. So let's get to the bottom of it today. Let's clear it up, what it is, what it isn't, what we should be looking at, and how do you really get that clear? How do you get to that point where you are super clear on your niche so that you can be achieving that success too? Sounds good, right? Well, stay tuned, coming right up.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
So today's topic, what is a niche and what it isn't? We'll deep dive into this because niching is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the business world, and a lot of people seriously resist it. They resist like crazy niching, and for all of the wrong reasons, really. So we're going to dive into what it is all about today. And, the reason why I say for all the wrong reasons and why we even are talking about this is because without a clear understanding, without that definition of your niche, what's happening is very generalized. And when we're general, when we're not specific, it's not clear. And of course, we all know that that lack of clarity leads to confusion. It leads to inaction. It leads to scattered, messy decision-making, messy marketing, trying lots of things and wondering why it's not working. Well, it is the first critical step and the critical thing that you have to have in your business in order to be clear, in order to be really strategic and intentional. Without it, we're just flying blind. We're throwing things at a wall, hoping something will stick. It doesn't even need to be spaghetti we're throwing at the wall. Maybe it's a mince pie. Who knows? But the point I'm trying to make is that this is a very critical step that the vast majority of businesses skip over or don't actually take enough time to define properly. They stop at the first layer. And one way I like to describe your niche is like an onion. There's many layers to it. If we stop at that first outer layer, you've really just peeled off the skin. You've still got that whole onion there. There's loads of layers. And it's not until you get right into the heart that you're really clear, that you're really well defined. And that is when it's sweet. It's easy. It just works. Okay. That's when we get to that point where it works so much easier. And you can see this. Okay. You don't just take my word for it. Look around, look out there. Think about what are those companies that straight away. I know exactly what they do. I know exactly who they do it for. Very clear about them. And what are the other ones that you're just a bit like, yeah, I've heard of them before, but I'm not 100% sure exactly what they do. So which one do you think you would refer someone to or recommend to somebody to follow up with? Which one would you be more likely to reach out to when you have a need? The one that you're clear about, right? The one that you're like, well, I know that they do that. So I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to have a look, I'm going to investigate, and likewise, it makes it much easier for somebody to discover you because it's clear they're looking for that. And guess what? Who shows up in the search results when you are in that space? Yes, we want to be standing out. We want to be floating to the top of the pile. We want to actually be float above all of these generalists because being general, it's sort of like trying to have all your eggs in all of the baskets put one egg in each basket, really trying to spread that opportunity thin and also spread the risk is what it perceived to be. But actually we are diminishing the level of opportunity that you're actually getting. And today's episode, we're going to dive into why is that? Why is that really? So let's look at what the niche really is, what it isn't. So number one, what it is, it's your sweet spot. That's what I like to call it, your sweet spot. You might call it your genius zone. It's really that thing that you do most well. It's not what most people think, a summary of everything that you offer. So this is one way that a lot of people get really stuck. They're trying to define their niche. It's because they're going, well, how do I describe this? I've got all of these things that I do, all of these things that I offer, and I'm trying to describe it in a really clear, specific, succinct sentence or few words. And of course you can't, because you're trying to bring in too many different variables, too many broad factors in there. It's just impossible to get clear and succinct. So when you're defining something that has multiple parts, multiple variables, invariably we end up with a general statement because it has to be true and valid, and we're trying to validate it against all of those little parts. So what it is, though, this is where we need to move away from trying to describe the summary and actually pinpoint in, well, what is that sweet spot? What is the genius zone? Out of all of those things, what is the thing that you really do best? So that's what, when we're defining your niche, that's what it is. It doesn't mean that you're not offering other things. It doesn't mean that you have to only have that one thing. No, absolutely not. What we're doing is we're saying, this is the space that I'm staking my mark in. So if we think back to maybe olden days when, people would literally come and stick a flag in a piece of land and say, well, this is mine. Think about it like that. You're putting your imaginary digital flag in your digital landscape and saying, this is where I am. This is mine. This is my area. This is what I do. It doesn't mean where the borders are. It doesn't mean all of that other stuff. It's just saying here, and this is what I'm calling it. This is my place. So when we are looking at that, I guess the first thing is removing that need to try to include it all. You can still offer an array of services. That's entirely up to you. It's your choice. This is your business. But in order for you to leverage the power of the niche and actually achieve what we've been talking about with being able to rise above the generalist, being able to stand out, be the one who's the chosen one, obvious choice, be known. Like, how many people say to me, wow, I feel like I'm the best kept secret. Well, guess what? When we're specific and clear, you're not the best kept secret anymore. You are known. You become known really easily because people are clear on exactly what it is that you do. Doesn't mean that's all that you do. You can have other stuff. You can have things behind the scenes. I like to call it a secret menu. And I say to my clients, have this as your leading thing, but whatever you have on your secret menu, that's up to you. You can offer other things, even behind the scenes, that you don't even put out publicly. You can still have other things that are public, but they're just not your primary thing that you are promoting. Now, I say that basically because you are in control of your business. It is your choice. When I work with my clients, I'm always saying to them, you can do many, many things. There's even more than what you're thinking of right now is what you can literally offer if you wanted to. But the more clear and specific you get even with that, and the more you rein in and decide, I'm going to just pick a lane here and stick to it. And, every now and then I might jump into one of the lanes next to me, but I'm not going to try to do the whole pool all at once. When you stick in a lane, it just makes life so much easier for you. It's far more simple. You need a lot less back-end processes. You need a lot less, different management pieces, administration in the back, like all of the stuff that's taking up your time, unbillable time. It really whittles down the more specific and clear you can get with your offering. So I do recommend to have a look at that and really be critical and say, well, I know I can offer all these things. You can even offer more than what you have right now, but should you, really? When you are a small business, when you're wanting to increase profit and you're not wanting to, grow time, add more time to your day, you're not wanting to build a huge team, you want to keep a really lean, light, easy business. Well, the fastest, easiest way to have a growth business is to really lean into that area, your genius zone, your sweet spot. And usually I find people who are trying to play in different areas, they're in other lanes, those lanes, lane 1 and lane 8, that they're trying to swim in, as well as the central lanes, they're not profitable. They're usually time consuming, low profit, really, almost the opposite of helping you grow. They are often very intensive for the amount of effort you put in, for the return that you're getting back. So when you look at the numbers, and that will definitely tell you some answers there, it could be time to streamline and to stick in your lane. So that was number 1, what it is and what it isn't. It is your genius zone, your sweet spot. It's not the summary of everything you can do. Now, the next thing, a niche is, and what it isn't. It is specific, but it's not small. Now, there's a big difference here. And I think that the term that we often use, saying, niche down makes you think down means going down, getting less, smaller. It's got all of this, the scarcity fear really rears up in us. You're thinking, wow, if I niche down, that sounds dangerous. It sounds small. It sounds like I'm going to have less and there'll be less opportunity. And, we might not be consciously thinking all of that, but in your subconscious brain, it's 100% on repeat saying, don't niche down. Danger, danger, right? That's what it feels like. And that's why when we're faced with that decision or that advice, hey, defining your niche will help you grow. That's why so many people resist it, because it's suddenly triggered this huge scarcity fear that we have, that it will mean there's less and that it's small. At the end of the world will come because our business won't be able to survive because there won't be enough opportunity. That's what we're thinking in the back of our brains. And, I know this because I've had those thoughts. I've had many clients tell me exactly that when we've been having this discussion about niching. Those are exactly the same things that come up over and over and over and over again. And they're valid thoughts until we look at behind the scenes, take it another step further and really examine that. When you're getting specific, it doesn't mean that you're getting smaller. It actually just means you're getting more defined. So you're defining who it is, which means that it's a stronger message, a stronger proposition to the market. Whereas before, when you're being less defined, less specific and more general, you're sort of floating around in this space, but no one's really sure that you're the one for them. So what happens in reality is while you're general, you have less opportunity because you're not standing out as that clear choice. Whereas when you get specific and defined, suddenly for those people who are the right fit for you, who are that criteria, you're standing out like a great big siren, like, whoa, this is the person for me. They exactly know where I'm at. They understand me, or they understand my business, depending on who your ideal clients are. They are really feeling it. They feel that connection. So you're not having less opportunity. You're actually having more opportunity because suddenly you're standing out in this space. You're making a space for yourself to be seen in, so that those people can find you. And really, this is what I call when you've got that space and you're being clear, you're calling in those people to you. They are finding you because you're suddenly able to be discovered. While you're not being specific and while you're not being clear, you're really the only one who knows, because nobody else can see what's in your mind or what's in your head. When you're speaking in general terms, they're only getting that surface level. They're thinking, okay, that sounds relevant. I'm not 100% sure though. When you can get really clear and really specific, they have no doubt that you are the right one for them. So it's really removing doubt. You might be thinking, well, Jess, but logically, when I get more specific, then, I'm defining. That means I'm, defining some people out. I'm putting a ring around this little spot in the market I want to be. We won't call it little, but this place in the market that I want to be. I'm putting a ring around it. And literally by doing that, then I'm putting some people on the outside of the ring. Say, yes, you are. And that's a really good thing, because you can't attract without repelling. If you want to attract clients, you also need to repel, because there is no way that you can have attraction without the opposite energy happening. Okay. Everything in life has an opposite. has an opposite force. So without being able to repel some, without putting that line there and saying, well, who's on the outside of the line, makes it really difficult for you to attract anyone in. So we do want to be doing that. And the other really funny thing, because this completely speaks to that fear that we have, is the fear of there's not enough inside the ring. Well, if you're in a business, a service-based business, you operate in any way online, guarantee you there's far more people in that ring than you could ever hope to service in a million years. You know, even if you grew your business to be the biggest business in the whole world, doing what you do, I doubt you could still manage to serve everybody. So I don't know why we think we're not going to have enough opportunity, because there's more than enough out there. The reason why we're not getting it is because we're not defined. We haven't got that niche. And that is literally, it's like the first domino that falls. So when you think about your dominoes, I used to love this analogy I used to teach in one of my teachings was about the dominoes. And when you knock over that first one, the other ones all fall, right? If you're not defining your niche, then you don't have that first domino that's falling against the others. So it's really hard to get that flow happening. It's hard for anything to happen with your business because you haven't taken that first step. You can't just jump straight into step 2. In Australia, so that, you know, a lot of people will say, well, I need more opportunity out there. Well, people will often say, you know, my market is small business, and they think that that's a definition of a niche. Now, in Australia, out of all businesses that are registered, 97% of them are a small business. They're classified as small business. Only 3% are classified as medium or large enterprises. Now, that's astonishingly enormous, right? There's millions and millions and millions of small businesses just here in Australia. And if you're like myself and you have an online business and you have a global audience, you work with people all over the world, well, my goodness, that grows and grows and grows exponentially. So of course we need to go far more specific than small business. We need to peel back the layers of the onion and get really, really clear on, well, what type of small business? Why? Which sort? What is it about them that makes them a good fit for you? When we start asking more questions and peel those layers back and get deeper and deeper, you'll find that it is actually easier and can be easy to define what your sweet spot is and to find your niche, and that no, it's not actually small. There's plenty of opportunity in that space. And guess what? When you're defining it, there's a lot less other competition because you've got defined and other people are out there trying to be generic. So that's number 2. It's not small, it is specific. The third one that I have here, the niche is not hiding you from the world, it's helping you to stand out and be known. So what it's not is putting you in a box, making you someone that's, you know, irrelevant to most people. It's actually just helping you be more relevant, more defined to a subset of those people. You will still have people who don't fit inside that definition that you had reaching out to you. You'll still have people, you know, out on the border. They're really near the ring. They might be on the outside of the ring they might be just on the inside of the ring. But, you know, we're not all black and white. People and businesses, we all are varying shades of grey. You will find that what we're doing is we're creating a stronger connection, a stronger degree of magnetism with the ones at the centre. And as it goes out, that degree of connection and magnetism will be weaker, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to reach out to you. Okay. And the proof is, I know I've done exactly that. When I first started out in my business, this particular business, I defined my niche initially as, you know, mums who are similar age to myself, you know, working online from home, you know, have an online business. I realized really quickly that that was way, way, way too broad, way not specific enough. You know, and while I could help any or all of them, because I had enough marketing experience literally to help any business with marketing, I can certainly go in and have a look at what they're doing and make some recommendations. That doesn't mean that I'm the best person to help all of them. And I really quickly realized that I wanted to work with those who I could get really outstanding results for, not just, you know, yes, I've helped you. Yes, you know, things are better. It's great. You know, I'm like, yeah, that's good. I like that. But if I can get the like, wow, breakthrough, wow, this has been a game changer, incredible, like blowing my mind. That's the result that really fires me up. That's what gets me excited to get out of bed in the morning. That's what makes me so happy to be working in my business, knowing that, what we're working on, who I'm helping, it has absolutely changed their life. And so that's really what it's about. Now, these days, I know it's much more specifically who I'm working with. And they're, people who are similar to me, professionals, got a professional background. They might be a consultant, they might be a coach. They've got an online business and they're very clearly in that space. And the reason why is when I'm looking at working with them, usually we've got a one-to-one based service. We might be looking at moving that into a one-to-many, which of course is something that I've done as well. I know exactly how to change that one-to-one service into a one-to-many, how to help them look at their service model, how to look at their pricing, their packaging, all of these things, because I've lived and breathed it. I've been in it. I've been working with exactly clients like that. And the more that I've been working with them, obviously, the more experience I've got. So I'm building a much stronger expertise in this area, because every client I'm working with is helping me build on that same expertise. If I was, doing a more broad service and just trying to help anyone who had an online business, I would be getting all of this different experience, but it would be staying broad in general. So it's not really helping me build on that core expertise. When you're building that core expertise or everything you're doing is helping drive that central column, just think about how much faster you become known as an expert, you become seen as a specialist in that area, you get great results. All of those testimonials are relevant to my ideal clients, and they see themselves in the stories and like, wow, if that person can do it, I can too. Fantastic. It all feeds in together. It's just so much smarter and more leveraged when we can do that than when we're trying to be a bit of something to everybody. So that's really the third one, what the niche is and what it isn't. It is not placing you in a box or hiding you away. It's actually helping you stand on the box, really stand out, and builds that expertise, that specialization. And it builds the awareness that that's what it is that you do. So, of course, that feeds into your credibility, your authority, trust. And that's why, you can have someone reaching out to you already thinking, I want to work with you. So it's really knocking over a huge part of your marketing and sales and meaning that you don't need to do so much marketing and selling. That's being done for you because of what you're presenting to the market in who you are. So your niche is absolutely critical. It is why it is the number one key piece in my Business Jam program. It's what I work on with my one-to-one clients over and above almost any other strategic area. There's really three key ones when I think about it. I like to break it into 5, but if I wanted to roll it up into 3 to make it easier to remember, really your niche, number 1, absolute must have. Number 2, your pricing and your service offering are the key strategic area. It needs to be aligned to your niche though. So you need to have done that first. And then the third one is how you're doing your marketing, like how are you actually reaching people, bringing them in. And that combines the other 3, which is, your brand and messaging, which is obviously how you're communicating with them, your marketing and your sales activities. So those 3 really, to me, are combined into one step because that's all based on how you're bringing those people in. But before we bringing them in, well, who are they and what are we selling them? We've got to define those first 2 first. And so that's probably telling you a big clue of why niching is so important, why this is a conversation that it's not a fad. It's not just a trend that people are talking about. Oh, niching, it's something that we're talking about now, and then we won't be talking about it in 5 years' time. Guess what, guys? It has been around for a very long time. I've been doing that ever since I first learnt marketing at university. The entire 24 years I've been working in marketing. It is always a key strategic area. It's a principle of marketing. It doesn't change. What changes is how you might approach it, how specific you need to get. And right now, because we're in a crowded online space that's been growing exponentially, especially since COVID, since people are working online and working for themselves, quitting the cubicle, thinking, well, that's not for me. I want to have control over my own life and do something for myself. More and more people are entering into their own business, which is fantastic. But it means that there's a lot of competition. And if you want to rise to the surface, you want to be the cream on top, not just the milk, then this is how you do that. You cannot be on the surface as a very broad generalist. You will only become the cream on the top when you have an authority. And for authority, you need a specialization. You need to be clear. Builds your credibility and your authority. So just to sum up now, why a niche is important. You need the niche in order to build a targeted audience. Without that, very, very hard. You might be building an audience of people who are liking your stuff, but they're not necessarily your buyers. So you'll know that's a really big clue. If you've currently got an audience that's not converting, then you've probably not gone deep enough on your niche. You need a niche to create really easily saleable services. So again, if your services, if you're competing on price and using price to win, the only person that's really winning there is your client, unfortunately. So if you want to become profitable in your service offering and have a service offering you're really excited about and that's inspired, you're giving your best value, it's critical to have your niche defined first. It's pretty much impossible to create a well-defined service that's profitable, that fits your intention for your business if you don't know your niche first. Absolutely step one. And the third one is that we need your niche to define your marketing plan. Without it, where are you going to market? What are you saying? Who to? What's that message? What do you need to talk to them about today? Well, all of those questions you'll have, but you'll know the answers if you have your niche defined. It literally takes away all of the confusion and it creates really sharp clarity. I never have a loss of what to say or what do I need to talk about today, because I literally am thinking of things all the time that I could talk to my ideal client about. I know exactly where they are. I know what they're struggling with. I know what they're going through, and I know where they want to get to as well. And it's super easy to talk to them about it because I have been there. I've walked in their shoes. I work with them day in, day out. So, all of those experiences mean that I've got an absolute mountain of content in my head, let alone what I've written down. I never have an end of it. And it's because I've got absolute clarity on who I'm speaking to. And, I know that this isn't just me, because so many of my clients, once they've done that piece to get defined in their niche, they say to me, wow, it feels so much easier. I suddenly know what to say, and I'm saying it, I'm feeling confident about my message. I'm feeling confident about the content I want to put out. They're not wasting time on things that aren't working. They're not wasting time, thinking, or maybe I've got to do this in a different way or redesign it, or, they're not fluffing around thinking that it's all this other stuff that's the reason why it's not working. They're actually realizing they just weren't connecting with people before. And now they are. They didn't need to change anything else. They just needed to get more clarity and to be able to speak directly to those people. And you can only do that when you understand your niche. So that is my piece for today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. What a niche really is your ticket to faster growth, far easier business and marketing, and being much more strategic and intentional in your business. I have never seen a successful business who does not have a well-defined niche. And, I challenge you to try to think of one. Maybe if they're a business that's been a successful business for a very long time, you might be thinking, well, they're pretty broad now, but I guarantee when they first started out, or they were in their initial foundational growth phase that might have lasted, a number of years, that they were really defined then. And you have that ability to expand, of course, in the future if you want to, but you don't have to as well. The good thing is that you might discover, hey, business is really fun and easy. It's not too much hard work when I'm keeping sort of really defined. I'm clear. I'm only focusing on this one area. It makes life so much easier because I don't need to worry about all this other stuff. Don't need to support it all. I don't need to create systems and different processes and content and all of these things for all these different avatars or different service offerings. And, everything that you add needs more support. And a really great example of that, when I used to work for the Royal Bank of Scotland back in the day, when was that, around 2008, just before the GFC hit. There were so many brands. We used to manage a huge handful of brands. I think there was well in excess of 10, 20 different brands. And every brand needed its own messaging, its own service offerings, collateral, like everything was multiplied every time you had a brand or even a sub-brand. It created so much work. It was not streamlined way to operate. And by actually reining in and having less brands can just absolutely remove all of this unbillable time that you may be spending in your business right now by having things that are too complicated, too many different pieces, even under one brand, and you've got different service revenue streams that you're trying to target different audiences. Well, that's doubling up on work. Every single one of those that you have, you've got the same amount of work that needs to go into each one to get it to work. And I know for myself, I'd much rather focus on one and do it really, really well, spend that time optimizing it, increasing my conversion rate, than trying to have, juggling too many balls. Have all those different pots on the boil and trying to manage them all, because I know from experience it's just exhausting and burns you out because you've literally just spread so thin across them all. You're not doing any of them very well. I could talk about this obviously for a long time. I'm not going to. I'll leave it here today. So thanks for joining me. Let me know what your thoughts are about your niche, or even what it is that you've struggled with the most. If you've got to the point where you're either struggling with what your expertise is, or maybe you're struggling with who your ideal customer is, and you might have narrowed it down to a handful of different ideal customers. I guess I want to just say you will get there. What we need to do is just keep asking yourself questions to help you peel back the layers, because there are answers there and you can narrow it down. Every time I've seen somebody get stuck at a certain point like that, I've had clients who narrowed down to 3 different customer avatars, couldn't go any less, and they decided they would market to all 3. And once they realized the amount of work they were putting into trying to market to all 3, and they realized that they would be just as successful, if not even more, with one only, and it would be much easier, they narrowed down to 1. And that's when their business really skyrocketed. They'd got booked the books, and they'd been able to quit their day jobs. They were paying themselves salary when they were targeting 3. But when they narrowed down to 1, they suddenly achieved, 500% growth. Bang. Because suddenly there was far less time needing to be spent switching gears, switching focus, different messaging, a whole lot of confusion and lack of clarity was suddenly gone, because they could just talk to this one group of people about something much more specific. So I hope I've made you feel really empowered and positive about niching, and maybe helped to remove some of the fears that we've got about it. Always keen to hear from you, hear your feedback. And of course, if you want to, learn more about it, I've got many different podcast episodes that you can go back and listen to where we've talked about it. I've brought on some of my clients who've shared their stories about their niching experience and what it's meant for them. So there's a lot more you can dive into if you're wanting to learn more about it. And otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your day. You've been battling with your niche for many years, and you know that you could define it better. You're just not sure how, and you keep on getting stuck on how you can be more specific and how you can really find that place that is the right spot for you. How to choose, the right niche for yourself. Absolutely. Really good question. Well, then I invite you to look at my short course. It's called Know Your Niche. In literally over a weekend, you can get that done. You can define your niche, and next week you can be clear about exactly what it is that you're doing in your business, who it is that you're most wanting to attract, how you can speak to them, how you can make sure your service offering is aligned to them, and build your marketing plan to attract them, to connect with them. Now, Know Your Niche is usually a $297 program. If you head to my website right now at jessicaosborne.com/niche and put in code 50, I will take 50% and you can pay 50%. So we can go halves in the Know Your Niche program as my gift for you for listening to my podcast. Thank you for listening in. And you can get started with your niche definition, really break through some of those barriers and get clear on what it is that you want to be doing, what you want to be known for, who you're wanting to work with, so that you can be more clear have faster growth and stand out above the rest as a credible authority in your space. So head to jessicaosborne.com/niche to get clear on how you know your niche right now.